I want to say a few words about events in the Middle East and Ukraine. Over the long weekend, the world saw what is hopefully the beginning of the end of the war in Gaza. I want to congratulate President Trump for the historic agreement that made this possible. There are still critical elements to be negotiated and settled. But the first phase, which included the release of the Israeli hostages and a ceasefire, is a good faith start to a more inclusive agreement. It won't be easy. The remaining steps will be difficult and require sustained attention from President Trump and our allies that help make the beginning of this agreement a reality. As New York Times columnist Tom Friedman wisely wrote this week, and I quote him, "You don't have a second to rest. As someone who wants you to succeed, I have to remind you, as hard as the first state was, you've not seen the hardest yet." I agree. There's been so much pain and suffering sparked 2 years ago from Hamas's brutal October 7th attack and the ensuing war, and it'll take a long time, if ever, to heal. But this is the best chance in a long time toward a more hopeful future where both people, Palestinians and Israelis, can live in peace. Similarly, I hope President Trump will now focus momentum from these events and equal attention on seeking an end to the war in Ukraine. I've said before, I don't begrudge President Trump for trying to engage Russian President Putin to negotiate an end to this terrible conflict. But it should be clear to everyone, and I hope it's clear to President Trump, Putin isn't interested or serious. In fact, Putin has only increased his deadly attacks on Ukraine since good faith outreach by the United States. Similarly, it's long overdue that the Senate pass bipartisan Russian sanctions, a bill that now has 80 bipartisan sponsors, a bill I'm happy to support. Putin only responds to force, military or economic, and it's time for the President and the Congress to stand behind the people of Ukraine and to increase this pressure on President Putin.